days in the sunshine of our happy youth, golden days full of gaiety and full of truth. In our hearts we remember them, all else above. Golden days, days of youth and love. How we laughed with a joy that only love can bring, looking back through memories. Nothing sweeter than its springtime, golden days when we're young, golden days.
Brothers made in the divine image, experience, divine experience, trembles the web of the mind. The beauty and order, the perfection established in the natural processes are not to be denied. But the realm of the undiscovered by humanity remains a wellspring of high adventure which will cleft through the rock of man's ignorance, his doubts, his fears, his uncertainties, and break forth with singing in the majestic pictures of cosmic ideas formulated by the mind of God and released as the experiences of God in life. God lives in the great spume of the sea. He lives in the high adventure on the wings of the wind. God lives in the pure pastel radiance of myriad sky beams radiating through the sky, of cloud formations, of the caress of his fingers of the wind upon the leaves of the trees. And as he touches human hearts that respond like a lute, creating a melody of infinite wisdom, components after components strung as beads upon an endless string, conveying a sense of immortality, and yet the finite becomes the means whereby men touch the very face of reality. Holy wisdom, born in the mind, trembling in the consciousness, springing up joyously from the cup of the heart, and refreshing the whole being of man, washing the consciousness and purifying it from the dust of the road. All of this is holy wisdom, for wisdom must do her perfect work. Wisdom must take the great hands of science and guide science. Wisdom must bring delight to the mind, not only through the mechanical precision of manifestation, but also through the variant possibilities builded within the framework of nature. For these variations, these potential, magnificent expressions of God, are the subtleties of universal reality that are as a banner unfurled before the consciousness of men. They see then in an elderly lady in Ireland gathering peat moss an example of the movement of God. They see, even in the furrows that line the faces of men, or the aging manifestations in hands in prayer. A presence waiting there to unveil the splendor of that which will one day be as eternal youth and immortality. Will you understand with me, then, that the high adventure of life is within your heart, and you are waiting for transcendental experiences as all men are? You are waiting for a reason, for there is a spark of cosmic brilliance that lunges through space and commands each individual to recognize his former state of perfection before there was a separation into the fold or enfoldment of individuality. Man feels then the need to escape from the prison houses which he himself has builded around the beautiful consciousness of God. He feels a need for transcendental experiences. He must reach out. Somewhere he must stand facing the sun and the sky and the wind. He must stand there and behold, it will be as though a vast outsweep from outer space were to come in closer, moving with great speed and brilliant cosmic precision, touching him gently upon the top of the head. It is as though all of the pinwheels of cosmos were bursting all around him. He no longer feels body confined. He identifies with the stars, with spiral nebulae, with intricate systems, with the movement of light and radiance through interstellar space. He is a manifestation of cosmic purity and motion. He is beauty and wholeness. And he touches with the fingers of identity all this that trembles, the very bars of universal magnificence, and chords cascading from the farthest reaches of space return to the echo chambers of the heart. It is as though there were a sudden roar of God magnificence. The sand of the sea is all mine, and the water is mine. And I am the water and the air and the fire, and I am the essence of a prayer, a desire for more of divinity manifest within me. This is the higher facets of transcendental education. It is the education of the mind to once again discover the channels of elder art, the channels of elder desire, the channels of maturity, the fashion of divine intelling, divine infilling, divine instilling, divine majesty. It is God and God alone who speaks then to the soul. And as the soul stands seemingly alone, reveals all this intricate majesty in space within and without. For within man there are the vast wheels of Ezekiel, the wheels within wheels, the great diurnal turning, the majesty that embraces time and eternity, time and infinity, warp and woof of substance and desire for motion, for energy, for expression. All is manifest, and all is the unveiling of the divine. We see here no tortuous manifestation, although it is an intricate one. We see this beauty distilling within the chambers of the mind the fairest dew of heaven, the dew that, like manna, feeding the children of Israel in the wilderness, in all human events is an oasis of peace. In all human events is a speaking of infinity unto itself and commanding, be free. Be free to understand the majesty of life, the beginning, the middle, and the ending. See the never-ending stair steps to completion, to the completion of a cycle as you climb cycle stair. The beauty of God is so unfortunately concealed today from contemporary man, for while he is able to formulate within himself the means of magnificent systems of computation, of electronic energy force fields that themselves function within the domain of human destiny to alleviate man's distresses and involvement with endless struggles to accomplish. Man is always able also to see that behind all his machines is only a partial manifestation of the intricacy of the heart of God, the divine design that speaks of far-off worlds, of far-flung identities, of intricate majesties that do no despot to deity or to the Christ who is the key, but only help to establish more of heaven's majesty within the mind. I am the words of God's own name. I am the word of God to claim, being fair and free, completion, power to be. This is God identity, fashioning an ever new image, as fresh as tomorrow, creating cadences to which men's hearts may beat, that they will see that on this street paved with gold's wisdom, men will find the love ray establishing there the foundations of power. Wisdom, power, and love in perfect balance, force field of joy that brings forth from the universal the snow-white dove. The dove descending is a symbol, bright and true, of the Holy Spirit bringing into view compassion for humanity in its hour of stain, in its hour of pain, as it travails, as it seeks aborning, and is ever now aborting. Cosmic peace and joy in cadences of violence and deceit. We would speak to men to cast off their dusty robes of sullen defeat and see the purity that lies unveiled in true wisdom. For the wisdom of God is first pure, and then it is peaceable, and then it is gentle, and then it is easy to be entreated. It produces the miracle of the Prince of Peace, and produces the miracle of the Cosmic Mother. It floods men with a love for Him that brooks no other. For only love for Him can complete the patterns He seeks to weave in consciousness. For I want you to understand that God the teacher is to be found in the cell. God the teacher is to be found in the bell, in sound, in fury, in the soul as it reaches out. God is seen even in madness, as madness goes astray from sanity. For when men are mad, they turn with greater hunger toward the sanity and peace that God is. The mind, not the mind in which struggle ceases, but the mind in which joy increases. It is not a pattern of negativity, beloved ones of the light. It is a pattern of sincerity and God delight. It is a pattern of reality that enfolds you all round about, but that so often becomes enmeshed in human conceits and doubts and old historical momentums which become hysterical because they bring men to a state of ribald laughter without understanding the reality of the soul that would fashion them in such garments of wholeness as would bring them to the feet of the Mother of God. For there they could understand that regardless of what earthly mother gave them physical birth, that in reality they were a child of cosmic worth, a being of the Holy Son Mother. They came forth washed in the radiance of her love, and the soul was born of her. And then when they understand this teaching of the cult of the mother, they will also understand that she is everywhere, that her trailing garments are spread across the world. And they beckon to the people of all nations and all religions, and they say, "Come now beneath this fold and feel the soft and joyous, bountiful radiance that is descending as though it were a Niagara to wash your soul and make it clean, to make you pure in swaddling garments, serene and lovely, bringing you to the feet of God, and there establishing you and putting in your right hand a rod to rule yourselves with a rod of iron." A rod of iron, a rod of strong will, the will of God, the will to do His will, the will to be established and to let no human interference interfere, a will to be established in fearlessness flame, to let no human fear interfere. This is the will of God. It is the caress of the mind of God. It is the caress of holy wisdom. It is the caress of strength. It is the caress of beauty. It is the caress of tranquility. It is the caress of the raging of God identity against the fierceness of the lion in the streets of violence, of the deceits and the wickedness of the world. It is the intent of God that saith, "I must go down now and establish amongst men the beauties of their soul. I must reveal to them the wholeness that makes them whole. I must shower upon them the electrifying essence of a cosmic mind and of a cosmic intent. I must secure for them, for now and for all time, the great bounty of soul that will make them beautiful because they are beautiful, because they are expressions of myself, because they are expressions of their self, because we are one self. And out of this one self, through the fragmentation of individualized manifestation, men have become divided, but they are individed within a whole, and they must be recalled, and they must share in beauty, and there must be a manifestation of all of this beauty in the soul and soul mind. And then he will understand, and they will understand, that no schism, no darkness, no indecision can drive them away from the lap of the cosmic mother. Let them pillow their heads and their hearts upon her, and let them understand that she will enfold them with arms of light and arms of light's comfort, and they will see that they must arise from this bed of comfort, this bed of their longing, to take their place in the world and act as God acts, to be as God is, to do as God would have them to do. They must become knight champions of the mother, not errant souls, wounding brother after brother because their own fragile egos are themselves so wounded. They must instead say, "My healing fount is Thee, O God, and in that healing fount I will live, and I will joyously effervesce, I will bubble, I will roll, I will express, I will joy, I will be, I will see, I will outreach, I will shatter the dominions that men have placed around me as covering, smothering shrouds, and I will go out into the world and into the universe, and I will express thyself, and everywhere thy joy shall live in me. It shall thunder, it shall burst into the radiance of the lightning flashes, and it shall forever and anon be one with thee. And I will live, and thou wilt live in me, and in the gentleness of our exchange of cosmic caresses, we will see the need to redress, to reorder our lives and the lives of men, to bring thy cosmic laws down into human dimensions, and to establish a sense of beauty and order and cosmic wisdom in men. This is the sealing in the foreheads of men.
Ojalá, ojalá.
The teaching is the vehicle of exaltation. It is the majesty of God, the garments of the Lord worn by those who aspire in His name to His estate. Let all understand the meaning of the teaching, for the teaching embodies the pathway toward regeneration. Regeneration! This is the goal. of the ascended masters for all humanity. Regeneration is the fiat of life, which must act, and act again in human consciousness until it has released men from those clouding concepts that have kept them bound for generations, for centuries, and will hold them bound until such a time as they find their release in the heart of their I Am presence. In the heart of your I Am presence is your freedom. In the heart of your I Am presence is that release and majesty which you seek. The hungers of your being will be satisfied as you eat that holy manna of the reality of your presence and partake of the sacred Eucharist, of the living Word that becomes alive in you forevermore as the sacred fire elements consume the dross and purify you from all that is iniquity, from all that is inequity, from all that is destructive, from all tendencies and movements embedded in the consciousness, deeply ingrained and interwoven with the good, the tares that grow in the field of the Lord, the tares that grow up with the good wheat. Let all understand how God, in His majestic power, determines that all whom He has created shall be saved, that none shall be lost. For the fire that tries every man's work is the fire of salvation. Those who pass through the second death have only destroyed that which is of darkness. And the pure soul, winging its way back to the great central sun, comes back then for repolarization. And it is as one who has builded and then suffered loss, because all that he has builded has been in vain. Behold then that the pure soul, the pure reality of God, is that which can truly say, Behold, I am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of hell and of death. Let men understand that the ascension is the means of humanity coming to that place where they are free indeed. For the ascension separates man completely from all the dross and all the shadow of the outer world, the temporal, the darkness, the pain, the envy, and the trembling. All are gone, and in its place the beauty of holiness and perfection manifests. And then we look at the little tree of identity, and we see that its roots, deep in the heart of the earth, contact the very fire at the center, the great central sun of the earth itself. And then reaching out to the other pole, the majesty of the fire of the sun of the solar system, drink also deeply from the draught of the positive reality that descends through interstellar space and contacts humanity, that humanity may at last find release through the divine photosynthesis, whereby the inner vehicles absorb the sun principles of holy wisdom. And then, when the temporal gaze goes out into the world of form and fixes itself upon a tree, or upon a leaf, or upon a bud, or a flower, or upon any object, it is able to discern the God within that object. And in contacting the God within it, to see that that which is without is but an objectification of that which is within the divine design. And so, the deified sign, the deified symbol or design, becomes a solar reality as it is communicated by the fires of the heart to the inner mind, and Christ's illumination causes it to burst forth as identity, God identity. This which occurs in nature, the solar return, the outgoing breath and the incoming breath, is all that is accomplished in the case of mortal men. The difference here is that men have the divine intelligence and knowledge of selfhood. I am that I am. Until this is realized, until humanity knows that when they say I am that I am, they are truly invoking their divine union. They cannot make the progress that life has otherwise ordained. For to know that you are one with God, to know that you have always been one with God, to know that you always will be one with God, this is the key to your release in the ascension. This knowledge is not simply a matter of rote. It is not simply a matter of repeating to yourself over and over again, I am one with God. This has, of course, its salutary value, but I am referring to the fact that unless there is a change in the outer accoutrements of nature, unless the very substance from which the individual is composed, and this goes from primal substance onward, unless all of that is involved with the knowledge that I am that I am, man is still holding back a part of the price of his own freedom. Let men understand clearly that when they give, it should be without reserve, without holding back, without fear, without doubt. For only in this manner can the great solar fires finally reach a point of white-hot heat in the substance, where the substance will not be consumed. If it is otherwise, the substance itself would change to the point where all of its identity would be consumed. What we wish then is consent of the mind, consent of the will. For the will and the mind are holy, as is every part. And when every part comes to a place where it acknowledges the divine, the deity within, then the whole has ratified those necessary amendments in consciousness which will produce the fullness of the Godhead bodily in manifestation. Then nothing, and I say it clearly, and the seraphim hear me, nothing, no, nothing can stop the divine union, the holy nuptial, from taking place. The spirit and the body becoming one. All things become purified by love, by light, by diligence, by complete surrender to He who is said, I am the Lord thy God that will bring thee out of the house of bondage. Let matter and substance then, let form feel the lightning of His love. Let matter and substance behold His star, brightly beaming from on high, from above. Let all life then understand the meaning of the Holy Spirit, of comfort's dove, descending into the chalice of identity, and raising it and exalting it into the majesty of the teachings, now in embryo, then in the full-grown manhood of Christ consciousness, of Christ illumination, of Christ identification. So goes the soul from form to wholeness. So is liberation achieved. I have spoken. Beloved souls of flame, we are real, and the world is one. We are real, and the world is one. Let me emphasize for you the cosmic factors of life, that there are masocystic forces in the universe, in the plane of matter, embodied upon the planet in form and floating about the astral realm, that would create an idea of division betwixt people. For in this sense of division, by creating schism, they are able to create a separation in consciousness from the reality that is God. We trust then that you will see in our communication to you of this evening that the powers that would alter the structuring of reality in man, the formation of the universal Christ, and of the unity of the world, must of necessity divide the individual against himself within the framework of his own being, thus creating a form of schizophrenia, so called by your psychiatrists, and also creating a world schizophrenia, in fact a world fragmentation. This prevents the unity that would produce the necessary accomplishments and create the payment of the price of freedom. Freedom is the highest gift, and because it holds the dearest value, naturally requires the highest penalty, price, or offering on behalf of the manifestation of its power and the continuance of its glory. One point of interest in passing: the world has never externalized absolute freedom. Only individuals have been able to do that, and they have done it by healing the schisms within themselves and by acknowledging the great power and radiance of Almighty God. As the gift of selfhood was conferred upon them, they accepted that gift and amplified it to its highest degree within their own capacity and power to do. Then the power of light came forth, and God answered their call, and they were raised up higher in the spiritual peerage until today they are men and women of honor, men and women in the courts of heaven, whose every thought is God, God, God. And lest somehow or other humanity may construe my words to be monotonous, let me say that every other sound to me is monotonous, for it spells the dripping of mediocrity to my being. Only God, 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 in its highest ramification, has any meaning to those of the ascended masters who share the great radiance of what has been termed the cosmic shield, a special group of ascended master devotees devoted to the protection of humanity. I happen to be the director of that group called the Shield of God. And we ourselves not only act upon the planetary body to protect the name of God, but we also act to protect the reality of every individual. The great ties to reality that all negative forces seek to rob from man. For the dark powers of the world want to take peace from people in order to create a feeling and foment a boiling, a seething condition in which peace cannot manifest. For they know that when peace manifests, then the glory of God can shine forth into the consciousness of man with ease and acceptance. Then the very four lower bodies of man stand still, as it were, and see the salvation of God. Do you know what this means, to stand still and see the salvation of God? Well, blessed ones, I want you to know what it means. It means the stillness of the soul. the quieting of all of the emotional whirl that so often is functional in the body and being of man. It means the stopping of unrest in the mind. It means the control and sophistication even of the physical instrument by the power of the Spirit, so that the individual can enjoy the God happiness which all nature would bestow upon man. Why do I say all nature would bestow upon man? Simply because it is true. Nature has formed a conspiracy of happiness at inner levels. And this was formed even before man himself was given a body. All conditions of nature were created to receive him in God happiness. And do you know, precious ones of the light, when a soul is integral or integrated with God, when the awareness of this integration is his, he does not feel the need then to have the support of any man, for he knows that he has the support of every man at inner levels. There is a consent at inner levels of every being upon earth to his mission, to his activities, to the light that is in him. And this consent is itself oblivious of human nonsense. Will you then recognize with me that as individuals advance spiritually, they finally reach a point where they understand the difference between sympathy and compassion? Oh, beloved ones, sympathy is a treacherous trap. For individuals often cry out for human recognition. The outer human self wants sympathy from others because it desires recognition. But what men should give is not sympathy. It is a divine empathy or a divine compassion, awareness of the fact that all men are going through various trials. Sometimes these trials are wholly of their own creation, and then again they are directed energy sent against them because they are following the Christ in the field of regeneration. And the negative forces deem their mission important enough that darkness and arrows are directed against them. It does not matter what the causes are. Compassion itself will recognize the need for divine comfort to be extended to one another. And this divine comfort never robs the giver of comfort of anything, as all divine conferments never rob anyone of anything. For as soon as the virtue is flown out of the being of man into the world of another, to encourage them, to comfort them, to spread the balm of love in their world, immediately God replenishes it tenfold. It is true that sometimes individuals feel the vacancy of the gift they have given, because this gift of tenfold conferment requires a certain amount of time before it actually flows through the nerves and through the consciousness and comes to the point where the individual can recognize that they have been recharged. But they are in heaven's name recharged the moment they confer a gift upon another. How can the universe itself afford to have a vacuum? Nature, as you have heard scientifically, abhors a vacuum. And so there is always an inrush, a great inrush of God's gift of love to those who give love. But what happens to those who give hatred? What happens to those who pour out misqualified energy? Do they themselves then have any right to claim from the universe energy to replace that which they have misused? I think not. Therefore, what does life do? It renders a debit against their account where a credit ought to exist. Will you then understand tonight, in the name of Almighty God and in the name of freedom and the principle of freedom, that the price you must pay is the allness that you are, but he who seeks to save his life will lose it. Surely you can see all around you that humanity are losing their lives. Surely you can recognize also that humanity, many of them, have not yet obtained a life. The life that they have is a life of inanity, of absurdity. It is a life completely identified with eating and drinking and with the procreative faculties of man. It is a life that is entirely wedded to the mores of society. Whatever is in vogue, let us do. This then shows you that the styles change from century to century, from decade to decade, and sometimes even from day to day. And those who would always be in fashion must of course change according to the styles. Men say to one another, "We have piped unto you, and you must dance." And it is so. And the puppets dance, and so the game goes on. But we are concerned not so much with those who play it as with those who win it. And God desires most effectively that humanity would win the game of life. God desires that men and women who have entered into this arena of strife should emerge the victors. And if one is to be a victor, it must be because he will utilize every gift of righteousness which God has placed in his hand. The ascended masters are a gift of righteousness. Your beloved Saint Germain is a gift of righteousness. You have a right to claim the attention of the ascended masters. You have a right to demand of the ascended masters their assistance in the battle of life. In heaven's name, why do you think we offer ourselves to you? Why do we speak to you? Why do we give you our attention and our love? It is because we want to take the superior God power which we have and which we are, and we want to motivate you. We want to motivate you according to the holy will. And once we have motivated you, we want to also furnish you with every bit of assistance that the Almighty has offered unto us. Please remember, dear hearts of light, that we ourselves were not without assistance. At the time in our life when we stood right where you are in the world of form, and our hand and our consciousness was outstretched, saying, "O God, help me," we called too unto beings of light. We had the assistance of the angelic host, and we understood that this assistance given unto us was given unto us as a gesture of strength until such a time as we could actually develop our own precious momentums and then engage them in the teeth of mortal affairs, and shall I say immortal affairs, until such a time as we could win our ascension and release the foothold that the negative powers had obtained through actually using our energies the wrong way over the centuries. What do you think, beloved ones, is the root cause then behind disturbances in the human ego? In most cases, it is simply the human ego that creates the disturbances in the first place. And then after having created the disturbances, it is almost as though they actually created the disease and then decided they were going to find a cure for it. This is quite a vicious circle. And when one stops to realize that they must break it somewhere, they realize that the break must come when the attention of man is on his God presence and is able to effectively transfer his attention off from the human and the human idiosyncrasies to such a state of awareness that he is looking upward ever toward his presence and is prepared to offer himself in the service of the light. Now really, let's just look at this from a practical point of view for a moment. Let us suppose that you ignore God and pass through this embodiment and 1,000 more, that you eat and you drink and you do everything that you want to do. Somewhere along the line, surely you will become tired of this repetitious cycle, and you will realize that there is a place somewhere prepared for the soul to manifest a state of victory over outer dependencies, where men will no longer depend on mortal food for the subsistence of their being. In God's name, how would you like to feed your soul physical bread and expect it to survive? This is utterly impossible. And therefore I say, almost with a note of cynicism, that I do not believe that humanity will succeed in feeding their poor, struggling souls with physical, mortal bread raised by human leaven. I feel that the only bread for the soul of man is the bread that came down from heaven. It is the power of the transmutative word, the power of the Logos, the power of God, the victory of the ascended Master Consciousness. Well, in heaven's name, if it is the victory of the ascended Master Consciousness, why not then pay full allegiance to it? I do not like the idea that some have spread abroad amongst the students that try to convey to the students that they should feel a hostile feeling at all times toward the mortal creation. This is not necessary. If you are going to maintain a feeling of hostility toward the mortal creation as an act of God, you are not putting your attention upon your presence. placing your attention upon your presence means that you take it off from the human and recognize the transmutative power of God to effectively deliver you out of the hands of the toiler, that outer manifestation you call the personal ego. When you do this, you do not then remove from death life. No, what you do, blessed ones, is you are transferring your center of attention away from the death of the physical consciousness toward the life of the presence, and the life of the presence not only flows into your being and individual soul consciousness, but it also transfers a certain portion of that life even to your physical being and your entire four lower bodies. I cannot believe that the profiting of the soul is the depriving of the body. For man is a unit, and until he has shed the outer cocoons of the four lower bodies, he will remain an integrated unit. It is very essential then that men should understand that the way to avoid a dichotomy of manifestation is to recognize God first, and then let the energy of God seep down through your entire four lower bodies and consciousness and literally permeate it with the glory, the joy, the peace, and the victory that comes from the octaves of light. Is there any other way? Do you actually believe that you can create life in your physical consciousness or by some virtue that you may perform? Is not the virtue of God and His grace sufficient for your every need? The problem with humanity today has always been that they are looking outside themselves for that which is found or to be found within themselves. I therefore want to urge upon you a greater measure of awareness of the perfect pattern that is already within your God self, that is already in the process of being lowered day by day into your blessed human selves. You came here in order to receive spiritual food. We have poured forth spiritual food to you throughout this conference, and little do you dream of the energies that have attacked these beloved messengers to prevent the dictations from coming through with smoothness, with alacrity, and with peace, so that their blessed hearts could rejoice in knowing that they had performed most beautifully according to the requirements made of their life streams. Well, precious ones of the light, you must always remember that the prow of a ship and the bow will sometimes take a very ferocious beating during a storm. Why is this so? Because as it parts the waves, it is the instrument that contacts them first. You must understand then that these messengers are also instruments through which we contact you. But we contact them first with our energy, and then the energy flows out into your world. Quite naturally then, just as an arrow penetrating substance will also receive a great deal more of a blow than the feathers, which are at the shaft end of the arrow, you can plainly see that these beloved messengers will from time to time receive the brunt of a physical attack, as well as a psychic attack, mounted against them in order to disturb the equanimity of their beings and thus prevent the manifestation of the radiance we desire to furnish to every student of the light. I want you to understand then that as you stand behind these messengers and support them, not in the mistakes that any human being may make, in God's name, if you yourselves are perfect, then cast stones upon them, but in the sense of the great God reality that they represent. And after all, is not this same God reality also present in yourselves? What then shall we do? Glorify the heirs of the world, or glorify the honors that God has already conferred upon all? None of you would particularly welcome an attack against yourselves. None of you would particularly rejoice because you were suffering some vicious misinterpretation of your attitudes. Well then, precious hearts of light, will you understand with me that I would like to make you an elite guard for these messengers? I would like to establish in you a focus of protection for them so that their work can improve each conference and every day. And thus, will you not also be blessed? Will you not also receive mighty assistance? I think you will. Let me explain to you that you have no concept in the main of the difficulties in actually contacting and holding contact with our level. If I were, for example, to transfer to you, even momentarily, some of the viciousness that has been directed against the messengers, you would be amazed at what a change it would make in your life. If you think you have troubles now, some of you would be utterly amazed at the troubles that you would have then. And the reason I say this is to secure greater support for them against the problems which they encounter in the service of the light. Remember, dear hearts, we could most easily create a closed class. We could set apart these meetings for those who had actually been keepers of the flame for a period of 4 or 5 years. We could bar all others. And if we did, I am almost certain that we would eliminate a great deal of the problem. For often those who are coming in first seeking the light do not thoroughly understand all of the problems that these blessed messengers face, or that are attendant to the creation of a conference such as this one. Because we know the importance of the work that is being done here, of the release of the cosmic energy into the world, we want you to have some insight tonight, one and all. I have a feeling tonight that we have created throughout this conference a very great rapport with many of you who before you came to this conference had little idea of our existence. I am convinced that you today are far more a man or a woman than you were when you came. I am convinced that many of you have made God determinations in your life, that you wish to go forth from this place and render such effective aid as you can to the cosmic hierarchy on behalf of the little children of the world, of posterity, and of those who through the years have served the light to the best of their ability and now are approaching the point where they are getting ready to make their exit and transition from the stage. Do you not see then how important it is that we should create a greater climate of world good for all mankind? Certainly, if humanity had the knowledge that we have, we would have no difficulty in rendering those effective changes that you yourselves are crying out for in your heart, in all mortal affairs. We could easily change the world to that perfect form of government and agency whereby the entire world would manifest the consciousness of the golden age. But today the problem is that men are divided in their thought. One desires to pull to the right and one to the left. One desires to go the middle way. And some blessed hearts of light have no desire to go any way. Hence, every year, a large number of people commit suicide and make their exit from the screen of life, where they are received on the other side, shook up, put into a sack, and sometimes return to the screen of life so fast that their head is literally spinning when they find their way back, and once again go through the entire process of growing up, coming back to the same point in life that caused them to make their suicide, and facing the same problem. There has been some discussion amongst the students of the light as to the fairness of this. Some seem to feel that suicide should be kept out of embodiment for a prolonged period of time, should be denied access to the screen of life, because they have forfeited their lives according to a bad principle. The Karmic Board does not agree with this. The Karmic Board says that in the first place, they merited birth or they would not themselves have been given it. That there were certain problems in their world that must be worked out, certain tests that they must face, and therefore life has usually sent them back promptly. Those who have been denied life are those who themselves have in past lives many times been instruments of the abortion of life of others. They have turned against life, and therefore life has turned against them. Some of them have spent as much as 2,000 years in the astral realm, functioning there with great hunger for an opportunity to return once again to the screen of life and win their victory. But they were denied that because the lords of karma recognized that the deeds which they had done did merit this sort of a punishment, a denial. We had hoped in the case of some of the lost Atlanteans, so-called, who are now upon the screen of life once again, that they would return to the screen of life with this long absence and find life very sweet, and that they would aid the causes of the ascended masters. Yet such has not been the case in many times. What has happened instead has been that they have become creators of their old and banal habits, and have returned as the sow to his own vomit. Let us then explain to you that we are not concerned with all of the struggles which humanity are passing through. For many of these struggles, blessed hearts of light, are an actual evolutionary process whereby humanity are developing wings for their soul. What appears to be so frightful to you, the destruction that seems itself to be so horrible, and with which you are so often concerned, is not so horrible to the ascended masters, for they recognize it as the pressure points of the world. The world and the world thought are putting these pressure points against humanity, and the tests come to humanity. And when they move with the stream of God delight, and move away from the negativities of the world, then do you see they are actually stepping a rung up the ladder, and step by step they rise. What seems to you sometimes to be a lack of progress is not always a lack of progress at all. For many human beings have suddenly turned to serve the light, who for centuries and for generations have turned against the light. They have finally come to the point where they have recognized their error, and their consciousness fell upon the rock and was broken. What is the rock? It is the Christ of their own being. They have kicked against the pricks, as beloved Jesus said to St. Paul, and it is very hard for them to do it. Yet they have done it successfully over the centuries. But we question whether or not it is genuine success. For we believe that each failure on the part of mankind is a trial and a problem for him. But more important than all is the fact that the God energy which he uses is imprisoned within an imperfect form for a prolonged period of time. Do you see what the blessedness of freedom really is? The blessedness of freedom is the release of that energy, so that it can ring its way up the ladder, rung by rung, until at last it manifests the beauty and perfection of God. Do you know, beloved hearts, the perfection of God that manifests in life is so beautiful that if man could only get a real glimpse of that perfection, he would never be satisfied with the mediocrity that he presently is engaged in producing. Now, isn't that a sensible statement? Can't you accept it? Well, if you can accept it, and I haven't found too much resistance to it, do you see how foolish it is for humanity to actually go against it over and over again? Man is truly, as you yourselves have said, his own worst enemy. But I do not wish to hold the matrix that this must remain so. We believe that man is waking up, and somehow or other, with all of the prayers for humanity, even older people are being prayed for by children. We believe that somewhere along the line a great cosmic release is going to come on a planetary scale. We feel that Sanat Kumar's magnificent decree of last evening, so frightfully opposed, but yet so victorious, is sailing forth into the world today. It is a rallying point around which the light shall stand. Understand then, hearts of light, that you are children of the sun. Why be involved with the consciousness of the moon, which is so often on the wane, yet desires so often to wax? What do I mean? I mean that man is becoming literally dipped in the wax of moon substance that crystallizes their wings and holds them bound so they cannot even move them. Do you understand the image I am conveying to you? The problem of humanity is primarily a problem of emotion. It is a problem of fear, and that is an emotion. It is a problem of self-love, and that is an emotion. It is a problem of human hatred against this or that, or resentment or irritation, or criticism or condemnation or judgment. All of these things are hindrances to mankind. And the hindrances of mankind are the causes of mankind's failure. Well then, someone said, let's throw them overboard. And then the ship will go on, brooking the storm and carrying out its appointed rounds. Full sail ahead. Yes, let us go on. But somehow or other, these visions given in moments are often forgotten. How many people who have attended conferences throughout the years can go home and remember the words and admonishments that we have given? Usually, it is most helpful if you make some form of recording after the conferences, writing down some of the salient points that we have made, or are able to review our words. by hearing them again through electronic recordings or the written printed page. Surely, as you understand the sincerity of the ascended ones, you will also understand that our sincerity is but a minute portion of the sincerity of God. He is your Father. He is my Father. We are His children. I am your elder brother. You call me the Prince of the house of Rekazi. But to what is the house of Rekazi dedicated? It is dedicated to freedom for every man. And what is true freedom but spiritual freedom? Is freedom simply a political, patriotic idea? Freedom, is it just a socialistic idea? For life ends. Men are born, they live, and they die. But the soul is able to traverse the veil of time and space and make its way through the trackless air. The soul is able to be crowned Lord of all. The soul divine image can live. Without the life of the soul, physical life would mean nothing. For the ocean of God is everywhere. And as drops of that ocean, you are separated momentarily, lifted as a little globulet into the atmosphere, holding a form for a moment and then dropping once again into the ocean of bliss. Your identity can only be endowed with immortality as you accept the divine plan for your individual lives. There is no other way. There was no other way for us. Yet we live. And our life was hid with Christ in God. You too, understanding the nature of the Godhead, the unreality of the ego, and the process whereby you can transfer your consciousness from the human octave to the divine, will find it entirely a matter of the attention, whereby the attention is placed on your presence and then anchored there. Oh, you say, from time to time, you will find a pull on your attention that will misdirect it to outer conditions or discordant conditions. Well, let me tell you then that while the pull may be exercised, the means for your freedom is simply to return your attention back to the presence every single time that it is pulled away. After a while, like a rubber band, you will find that it will automatically return to the presence, and you will not have to exercise various mental or spiritual processes whereby you do it. A habit of a spiritual nature can as easily fulfill your sacred obligations even as you can master outer principles and find that those principles will also automate. The time has come when the students of the light in this particular era of time should understand the meaning of the devil. Humanity have been disabused of this idea. They acknowledge neither God or devil. As a result, they do not understand that they are pawns in a giant chess game where the Almighty is paying the price for their souls in a strange game of chess with the dark powers of the earth. Both these powers, the power of good and the power of evil, are inherent at the present time in the life of humanity, in the life of all people. There is good and evil in all people. And because the battle is so very much involved with the individual should understand that the source of infection is often himself. But just as negativity weighs down the soul, so the positive attitudes of the Christ mind will elevate it. Remember the meaning of the statement. The serpent's head will be bruised by the heel of the Christ. Remember also that the serpent will bruise the heel. Therefore, men should understand that the lever of good and evil operates within themselves. When they have reached the point where they can affirm with the Lord Christ, the Prince of this world cometh, and findeth nothing in me, at that juncture in the life of the individual, he will have fulfilled the precept of God, the precept that clearly saith, Be ye therefore perfect. It is the will of God that man should be perfect. It is the will of God that that perfection should live in him. But you know that in your members there are other laws and habit patterns functioning, that these are fed and have been fed by humanity for centuries. Long has the evolution of the earth been, in which evil has also had a development simultaneously with the forces of good. Therefore it can rightfully be said that they have grown up side by side. The tares are indeed existent among the wheat, and the fields cannot be cut down before the time of harvest. Therefore, the life evolutions of this planet are going through the growing process, and when the harvest time comes, the tares will be cut down. There will come an end to evil conditions. There will come an end to the present struggle for humanity. But this end is not necessarily tied to any actual date. We are against the idea of dates, for dates would imply that predestination of the destiny of man has such control over him that he no longer holds to free will. The delays occurring in the evolution of the individual, as well as planetary delays, are all a matter of the function of the human will and its motivation for or against the victory of the light. Let all understand then that as they attune with their God presence, drawing from their God presence the power and will of that presence, and bringing that will as a motivating force into their lives, then they will be able to more easily overthrow the vicissitudes and propensities of darkness that otherwise would seize hold of them and misdirect them again and again, and misdirect them according to the same cycles of good and evil. We want you to understand that the nature of God is good, that his nature will quite naturally express in man when he opens himself to drink in the elixir of the never-failing light of God. Now, in the matter of freedom, let it be clearly understood that freedom today upon this earth is being threatened to such a degree that we urge upon every student of the light the understanding that there is a link between his freedom and the freedom of humanity and the progress of the soul. If it comes about that outer conditions become so restrictive of the movements of humanity and of the individual, that an individual cannot actually pray or worship God without ostracization from his fellow men, then I think you can clearly see that we would have effectively accepted a stymieing of mankind's outworking of his own salvation. For the power of the state and the power of the red dragon would become one in a super state ruled by the red dragon. The evil consciousness then would be able to force the wrong concepts upon man and make those concepts appear to be a benefit to man, whereas in reality they would strangulate the soul. When you consider then what I am saying to you, it clearly illustrates to you that there is no price too high to pay for the freedom to express the will of God. For if you lose out today on this expression of the deity, when do you think you will gain it again? How long will you wait at inner levels for an opportunity? How long will the earth be before it will again return to a form of government and a system that will allow humanity the opportunity of worshiping God according to the dictates of their conscience, which was the primary reason why the pilgrims of old left England and sailed in the first place to the New World? I come to you today, and I am the great divine director. I am the prince of the house of Rikazi, and I am radiating my light into the world. I am radiating my light as a torch of freedom. I am radiating my light as scintillating and beautiful energy. And I tell you that all of the opposition to the spread of our light shall be as nothing to the power that we shall manifest through you as individuals when you make up your minds that you are going to let the mind of God make up your mind. I am speaking of the law, of the will, of the presence, of immortality, of the divine plan, of the infinite circle squared within the form. You remember when St. Germain said long ago a little statement concerning the squaring of the circle? Well, hearts of light, we are determined to square the circle. And we are determined to square the circle according to the divine tetragrammatron. Because you see, the circle is the symbol of infinity, and the square is the symbol of the finite world. But the city of God, visualized by Augustine of old, came down from heaven as a great cube of light, a square. And therefore you see that the kingdoms of this world will become the kingdoms of our Lord, and the meaning of that is that the finite world, becoming endowed with the power of the infinite world, will carry itself forward into that God-intended conferment whereby every individual becomes the God of his own world. Then he is able to go out into the universe in that realm called the expansive realm of space and become a living God in his own solar system, create his own universes, and soul them with those made in his own image, and continue the creative process of life until the infinite God of all is truly Lord of all. And all is one. And through this great drama, the outpicturing of the magnificence of God, everyone shares in the glory of becoming both peasant and poet, of becoming both the humble server of man and the immortal creator of man. And so, what we do is hark man back from his state of consciousness to the beginning, where man becomes the creator of himself. And thus God confers the power to direct the lives of the individual upon the individual, and all things are surrendered. Humanity bow their knees to God, and God bows the kingdom to humanity. But he cannot do it until man, most assuredly, are servants of God good. So long as their hearts are filled with smallness, so long as their hearts are filled with human misconceptions, we cannot trust to them the somber business of directing the affairs of universes without end. But when we reach the point where we can safely confer upon man, we will say to man, the finite God, become the infinite Lord of all. And man will rule and rejoice and perceive also the emptiness of himself as a human without God, when the creation which he has also made reaches the same stage in evolution in which man himself is presently engaged. Therefore God will be all in all, the circle will be squared, the light of the infinite will flood through the finite world, the city of God will exist, and humanity will be saved as God intended from the beginning. That none of them should be lost is his will. The travail is that which we wish to lose to humanity. We want to end the pain in God's name. We want to end the suffering And the only reason that we confer these laws upon humanity is to end it. The only way you can end it is to surrender to God and to determine that nothing shall deter you from the service of the light. For when you spread that flame that we have, what do you think it's going to mean to men? They cannot stop it, you see. It will move into the world, out of your hearts and minds, a vital binding force. It will move accompanied by the forces of light, by the archangels, by the angels, by cosmic beings, by the elementals even. And eventually, humanity will literally be overwhelmed by light. And this is the way of the overcoming. It is the way of the apocalyptic and magnificent victory of the light, and the key to it all is freedom. Without freedom, man is nothing. Watch the streamers of light come down. Watch the peace that flows. Watch the light of your heart expand. Watch the love that glows. See, I am within this room, a house of light indeed. The summit beams are everywhere, fulfilling human need. I came to give you light and love, a sense of freedom grand. Nobility is in my heart, and love is in my hand. I know that you are God's own child. We'd raise you to the skies, conferring on you life that lives and love that never dies. Peace be with you. I speak unto the little ones of mine, and I say unto them, know ye not that your angels do ever behold in heaven the face of my Father? Remember then all the days of thy life, and at every moment thereof, that there is a continual contact between the life that beats your heart and the eternal life in the heart of the Father. The angel of your presence is always one with God. The angel of your presence always knows the fullness of perfection. There is no darkness in your presence, but only the light of life, the supreme comfort that can never be taken from you, for it is a part of life itself. We marvel from time to time how humanity seek to subdivide their world, how they seek to amplify and emphasize the imperfections of life, and do not understand how their consciousness can, through holding its divine attunement, always hold the awareness of the Father. But it must be done without resentment against other parts of life. For other parts of life sometimes will misunderstand. And in the misunderstanding of other parts of life, it will seem as though there is opposition pouring forth and seeking to tear apart the beauty of harmony. Harmony is of God. Outer conditions are often in the process of adjustment. Do not mistake, beloved ones, that which is in the process of adjustment, moving toward perfection, with that which is already perfect. Your beloved I Am presence is all perfection, all light, all loveliness. Your outer consciousness is so often filled with doubts, fears, disturbances, and states of confusion. If you would then know peace, understand that peace emanates from the heart of your presence. The easiest thing in the world for you to do when you are disturbed is to turn your attention upon the heart of your presence. I myself, in my embodiment as the Nazarene, went apart from men to pray. For the multitudes did enclose me round about. And I tell you truly that the thoughts, the feelings, the disturbances and the outer conditions so prevalent there often drove me to seek release and separation from the madding crowd. I would go apart, either out into the water or into a high mountain to pray. And there in my communion I obtained the grace that restored my soul, and the memory of my boyhood as David returned to me. And the Psalms I wrote as David came often to my lips. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He restoreth my soul. All of these words come again from the storehouse of memory, made me appreciate the closeness of God to me at a time of great testing. For there are many among humanity that have the idea in their consciousness that all of my life as Jesus of Nazareth was one of ease and perfect victory. They do not understand the great testing mission which I served. They do not understand that all of the faculties of God which I had earned by His grace as it moved through my lives in the past was now called into action. For before your ascension, There are often times of great testing, even to the point where an eclipse of the very sun of being takes place. The obscure night of the soul comes then as a period of barrenness and darkness, where nothing seems real, where God seems far away, where your efforts seem frustrated, where the thorns upon the path are sharper than sin itself. Beloved ones of the light, if you would only grasp the principle that nothing, as beloved Paul the Apostle said, neither height nor depth nor any other creature shall be able to separate us from the love of God which is in Christ Jesus our Lord. He spake of this which dwelt bodily in me, which dwells bodily in you, as you begin to expand that flame through the force field of yourself. The problem is one of area and density. Humanity have the flame of absolute perfection within. We call it the solar flame, the flame of the solar flare. We call it the solar flame, the flame of the soul. Understand then that this flame, so tiny, it is even less than 1/16 of an inch high in many people, must be expanded and expanded and expanded again and again, until at last the whole continent of the body is one pulsing radiance of awareness. Awareness of God. Your feet touch the green grass. Your bare feet touch the dew upon the grass. The cool warmth of Mother Earth comes through, and the currents of the earth passing up through the plexuses of the body pass even to the brain and renew the light within the body. Man then becomes not only an electrode negatively affixed to the earth, but receptive to the great positive polar currents. Will you understand that the mysteries of science, the mysteries of life, the mysteries of eternity are all one with yourself? You look without, and you look to the world for knowledge. All knowledge can be obtained from within yourself. For the fruit of the Spirit of love, of joy, and of peace that is within you has contact with the farthest flung worlds. Your angel is always beholding the face of the Father which is in heaven. And where is heaven, if not in a state of highest consciousness? Heaven must be omnipresent. Heaven must be omniscient. Heaven must be omnipotent. If heaven is all-powerful, if heaven is all-wise, then heaven is everywhere manifest. And if heaven is everywhere manifest, then it becomes a matter of plugging in your power cords so that the energies of heaven can flow into your consciousness. And if the resistance in your consciousness is so strong that your body becomes heated as the light strives to pass through, then know that transmutation occurs with the coming of the heat. Did it not say clearly in the writings of Peter that the elements should melt with a fervent heat? Understand then that no man can be born a god save he pass through his own Gethsemane, his own obscure night, his own period of vacancy, where his soul will strive to cry out with these words in sudden anguish, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Understand then that we who have passed through these veils understand what you are passing through and why. Sometimes the most difficult matters occur because the student of light does not know why he is passing through these problems. It is like a poor wounded animal lying upon the earth and not understanding a bit of what is going on, but knowing that he is in pain. I remember many, many years ago in my boyhood as Jesus coming upon a wounded lion cub lying in the pathway. And I remember a wave of fear momentarily coming upon me, for Joseph, my father, had warned me concerning the mother lions that so often lurked nearby. I made a prayer hastily to God, asking for his light rays to conceal me from any animal substance in the area. And then gently I went forward. The little beast snarled at me at first, and then gazed into my eyes. As the love in my eyes poured out to meet this little wounded cub, he began to whimper and then to whine. I came near to him and perceived an awful thorn penetrating between the little segments of his paws, and deftly, with divine skill, by God's grace, removed it. There was a momentary sharp cry from the little beast, and then he fell asleep. I walked away with gratitude, and had scarcely gone 50 feet when I heard the growling of his mother approaching. I safely escaped through the brush, and felt that I had performed a service to a little creature of God. And so I want you to understand that if, as a child, I felt this way about a little animal, how much more do you feel in your heart that I care for each one of you who are today of such great value, because you have passed, many of you, not only through the centuries in which I lived then, but you are here now in the world of form and are waiting your victory. But your victory will not come by catering to your human. It will not come by submitting to negative ideas. It will not come by discussing your brethren in a negative way. It will not come by ignoring the mandates of God. Never scatter evil ideas among brethren. Be purveyors of good, and hunger and thirst after righteousness, and you shall be filled. But be cautious, beloved ones, with your words. Be cautious with your words which so many so carelessly speak. For oftentimes one little word can be a word of death to another brother or sister, or one little word can be a word of life to them. Would it not be the best part of wisdom to speak words that will give life, that will give healing, at a time in the world's history when so many of humanity are dedicated to controlling large masses of people, where public opinion is being molded by the media, where destructive forces are everywhere rushing forth to create the wrong images in humanity? Would it not be the part of wisdom to create the right images, to endow this organization with all that it needs so that this organization could move forward in the duty of educating humanity, of releasing our words, of teaching the children of the world, of erecting schools and colleges where the laws of love can be expounded upon? Would it not be wiser then to create these gifts and to be stewards of these mysteries than to allow yourselves to become a sewer of egotism where the forces of darkness can flow through? Open your hearts and your minds to the purity of God's light. Open your hearts and minds to the purity of His freedom. For freedom to express, should be freedom to endow, and freedom to endow should be the right to give what God has already given to you of service and love to humanity. Thus shall we begin a new industry. An old industry shall be reconverted, and the business of teaching the souls of men shall be given new dignity and new honor, as the principles of the great white brotherhood are adhered to, as love becomes law, for it is law, as love becomes life, for it is life, as love becomes beauty, for it is beautiful. My peace I leave with you. The peace I leave with you is not the peace of the world, but it is the peace of the kingdom. The peace I leave with you is the love of the eternal for the eternal. For the eternal is in form. The eternal is rendered temporal. We would render it eternal once again. The poignant memories of many elder days pass through my consciousness, but I will not put it all into words. I will give it to you as a feeling, and let you decipher that feeling through the days ahead. For then I feel that it will become more real to you, clothed in the garments spun of the sun that is within you. I thank you.